Good morning, St. Louis. Welcome to another episode of the STL Donut Tour. Last week, I visited the final shop on my list that sells donuts in the St. Louis area. In all, I've been to 60 shops total. So this week, I'm going to highlight all 12 shops on the tour that sell one of my favorite styles of donuts, the Old Fashioned Buttermilk Bar. In today's episode, I'm going to show you what this style looks like at all 12 shops and tell you who has my favorite. So grab some coffee and let's take a closer look at those donuts.
Today we're starting off at our first stop on the STL Donut Tour, Donut Drive-In. The Donut Drive-In Old Fashioned is a gold standard around the city. It has a deep, rich brown caramelization on the outside with a soft, moist, buttery, rich, cakey inside. It has a hint of nutmeg, and the sugary glaze brings all these flavors, the buttery richness, the spice, the sweet, the nuttiness of the browned outside, all together into the perfect piece of fried dough to go with your morning coffee. Next on the list is Eddie's Southtown Donuts off Kings Highway. Eddie's Old Fashioned is one of my favorites out of all the shops on the tour. They have the most perfectly browned outside with a good layer of flavor soaked in all around the inside. The cake itself is beautifully spiced with nutmeg and clove, then topped with a thick sugary glaze that sets it all off. If you're looking for the best old-fashioned in St. Louis, then you've definitely got to check out Eddie's Southtown. Today's Buttermilk Bar from JMC Donuts is slightly larger than most of the other shops. It has a light golden color and thick sugary glaze. Breaking it open, we find a beautifully soft and buttery rich cake. It's not spiced, but it has a subtle vanilla flavor and a slight tang from the buttermilk. This donut is really delicious. This old-fashioned buttermilk bar from the donut cupboard is beautifully golden brown with a thick sugary glaze and perfectly porous, with lots of little pockets and cracks for the glaze to seep in. It has a light crisp crunch from the glaze, and breaking it open, we find a soft, moist cake with a rich, buttery flavor. Absolutely amazing. The Buttermilk Old Fashioned from the Sweet Spot Cafe is gorgeously browned on the outside, with a nice traditional size and shape. It has a really shiny glaze that brings a good sweetness, and breaking it open, we find a nicely soaked center where the glaze is all seeped in. It has a good buttermilk tang and a really nice nutmeg spice to it, with all that sweetness. Overall, this donut has an awesome flavor and texture. After that, we've got a Buttermilk Bar from Donut Delight. Crisp and perfectly browned. The deep fry on this just gives it a really rich flavor. Look at that glaze in every nook and cranny. This is just a perfect donut with coffee and a great donut for dunking. The flavor is so deep and delicious. This is a rare find among old fashions. Not many places make this style anymore. Absolutely delicious. The Buttermilk Bar at Old Town Donuts in Florissant is called a crescent and is a beautiful golden brown oblong piece of fried dough. It is super soft and fluffy with a thin sugary glaze all over. The texture of the cake is rich and buttery with a nice nutty, tangy, slightly spiced vanilla flavor. This one is definitely the most unique of all the Buttermilk Old Fashions. After a poor showing at the Maryland Heights Tony's, I had to visit the Tony's in Hazelwood to try their old-fashioned buttermilk bar. I am really happy with this old-fashioned. It has a nice, soft, fully cooked center. The cake was dense and rich, and the glaze was thick and sweet. Just a really pleasant-tasting old-fashioned. Just being fully cooked makes the Hazelwood shop the place to go for these. Next up, we've got a Buttermilk Bar from Kelly's Donuts in Hazelwood. This donut is soft and buttery rich. It has a good buttermilk flavor with a hint of vanilla. And the glaze on this is nice and thick and has a little bit of a crunch to it. But this one has a real light golden color to it. Just not enough of that dark brown caramelization that really makes an old fashioned something special. Coming up next, my number one favorite Buttermilk Old Fashioned in St. Louis, St. Louis Hills Donut Shop. Now this is what I'm talking about. I personally love this style when it's done right, and none have done it better so far. Perfectly browned with a crisp outer coating from a thick glaze and a deep rich fry. Flavor is amazing, like sweet brown butter, and the thick crunchy glaze is just the perfect balance. Following that is a fat and fluffy old-fashioned buttermilk bar from Mario's Donuts and Cafe in St. Peters. Mario's version has a perfectly browned outside and beautiful thick glaze, giving this classic a crisp caramelized outer edge. Breaking it open, we find a soft and dense winter spiced cake. This glaze really is making the difference on some of these donuts. Whether it's got honey in it or something else, it really adds a new level of flavor when it combines with the other ingredients. I like it. And last but not least, we have a beautiful Buttermilk Old Fashioned from Shamrock Donuts in Arnold. The look is dark and beautiful with a visible crispness to the outside. The cake inside is creamy and soft with a delicious flavor and texture. Shamrock's Old Fashioned is definitely on my favorite list. If you love Buttermilk Old Fashions, you need to check out Shamrock Donuts in Arnold.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the STL Donut Tour. After a year and a half, I have visited all 60 donut shops and bakeries that sell donuts in the St. Louis area. Join me next week as I highlight another one of my favorite hard-to-find styles of donuts and where you can find them in the St. Louis area. If you know of a donut shop that I missed or a donut shop that you want to see a part 2 on, then leave me a comment down below and I'll visit them in an upcoming episode of the STL Donut Tour, where I'm looking for the gateway to the West through fried dough. Have a great day, everyone.